To address the issues facing Tennesseans today, from 10 News, this is Inside Tennessee.
Getting ready to go on our first official visit to the White House. I'm very excited. Just want to thank everybody for allowing me to get here. I will not take you all for granted. Thank you. And yes, I'm wearing my Carhartt.
Yes, good morning and welcome to Inside Tennessee. I'm your moderator, John Becker. Congressman-elect Tim Burchett is our guest, but before we hear from him, a quick refresher about how he is already making headlines in the nation's capital.
Come January, it's serious business for the 116th Congress. But this week, there's plenty of time for fun, as freshman members of the House get their bearings in D.C. Even though Congressman-elect Tim Burchett has only been in the nation's capital 3 days for orientation, D.C. already seems to be getting its bearings when Mr. Burchett goes to Washington. Took him all of a day to be in the New York Times just trying to find his way around. Told the paper the longest he's been in D.C. was in 1976 as a patrol boy. The former Knox County mayor will be part of the Republican minority in the House. And he'll be in the minority as the only representative wearing that familiar Carhartt jacket. In his 3 days in D.C., he's made headlines for fist bumps, taken plenty of selfies, including one with former Vice President Dick Cheney, and made plenty of jokes, mostly about food. Senator Bernie Sanders leaves his breakfast, so Burchett eats it, and said socialism really works. That tweet of a fancy menu comes with comments he'd rather be at Wright's or Vol Market number 3. Hashtag, which fork do I use? When the class photo's done, well, Burchett scooted over to meet some tourists from Jerusalem and try out their scooter. And says he gave them a hearty Southern shalom, y'all. And Congress will be back to arguing over walls, taxes, and President Trump in no time. But for now, D.C. is warming up to Burchett, though it looks like he'll need that Carhartt to warm up in a sleet storm in D.C. For WBIR 10 News, I'm Jim Atheny.
And we welcome back to the broadcast this morning the Congressman-elect Republican Tim Burchett. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah. Let me introduce our panel. We'll get to the questions. On the end there is Don Bosch, runs his own law firm and happens to be a Democrat.
Good morning.
Good morning. Karen Carson used to serve on the school board in Knox County. She happens to be a Republican.
Good morning.
Good morning. And John North is my colleague here at WBIR.
Morning, John.
Good morning. All right, Congressman-elect, what do you make of Washington the first couple weeks? You haven't been sworn in yet. That comes in January.
Yeah, I told somebody, I said it's pretty easy to get used to if you can get used to a 30-minute work day. It's a lot of pontificating and you know, a lot of cameras and a lot of media. And in our freshman class, everybody, I always joke around, I must be the only guy that realizes that President Trump's not going to call me and ask me to negotiate a trade deal the first day. You know, a lot of hard chargers in there, and it reminds me a lot of the legislature when Bill Dunn and I sat in the back, and Bill, of course, still is in the state legislature in Tennessee, and we sort of looked at the crowd and we sort of figured out who was probably going to be a one-termer and who might go to jail and who might leave here in a casket, and we were pretty accurate.
You've got some odds.
At least on the ones that went to jail. So. Or prison, I guess I should say, to be more accurate.
Well, it depends on how long the stay is.
Yeah. What kind of a deal gets negotiated?
And who the representation was. But, you know, it was interesting. Like I said, it's a lot of like Nashville, just bigger. I remember they sent us, we all went to a meeting, and it was just all the lobbyists, and there was probably, I don't know, 100 lobbyists. And I just stood over there in the corner really and just kind of laughed because I was watching everybody go around getting a card and thinking, God, these guys are interested. No, they're not. They're mercenaries. They don't want to own you. They just want to rent you. And
some are, Tim.
Yeah,
and we had that talk.
Yeah, we had that talk, and I was going to say I've had these two ladies were over in the corner just kind of sit, and I asked them, you know, what their deal was, and they were with the Mental Health Association, and we made fast friends, and I'm looking forward to working with them some, but it was just. You know, it's what you make of it.
You are a part of a historic class, which has more women than we've seen in history, and also a lot of progressive candidates who certainly don't line up with you politically. So just in those casual interactions, are these people you can see yourself working with on issues down the road and maybe find some common ground? Absolutely,
but you know, it's just like I talked to some Democrats who said, you know, when you all were in power, we just voted against everything, and basically they've told us that same thing, and I hope we don't fall into that trap. I made fast friends with a lot of them on the other side, and I did notice it's kind of unusual that a lot of the folks on the Democrat side, I seem to be the only person that go if you saw the when we did the drawing for the office,
for the office, number 15, yeah.
And I was walking back and I was giving high fives on both sides. I mean, there was a line there. The Democrats, and I gave as many high fives, I mean, you know, because I knew them and I talked to them, and some of the folks like Ms. Cortez or Donna Shalala or some of the others, even their own party, I noticed, don't talk to them, and it's just kind of unusual. I don't know if it's a jealousy thing or they just see them on television, and honestly, I've been told not to say this, but I hung out with Kid Rock. I was starstruck a little bit with Kid Rock. But for some of these folks, I'm just not starstruck with them, and you know, because I've been in the legislative process, and of course, you've been in elected offices yourself, and you understand it's after the cameras go away, it just gets down to work.
Well, Tim, I mean, you talk about the lack of, or the degree of partisanship that has existed. And don't you think that the current crop, be it Democrat or Republican, were elected at least in part by public, by the voters, by us, to maybe start breaking through that? And are you willing, as a staunch Republican, as you always have been, to sort of pick and choose those moments where, hey, maybe my party isn't for this, but this is right, and I'm going to do it?
The issues are what drive us. But I'll warn you, Don, I think every class comes in very idealistic, and these are folks that have never served before. And once they get in there and they see the red meat issues, and they're going to come home to the Republican clubs and the Democrat clubs, and they're just... Is
that going to be you?
No, it never has been. It's selling memberships, though. That's what they're doing.
Right.
That's what they're doing.
Well,
and I see issues, you know, like the mental health issue. It's not a, as I always would state it from Nashville, it's not a sexy issue, but it's an issue that I think that we can find some common ground on, and we need to work on.
Right.
Because
so I know
it's wrong to lock up somebody with a mental illness.
The first term Democrats have been elected, and some of them hold some of your views. So I would just suggest, if you're serious about saying, I'm not just going to grab the red meat and be the rah-rah guy for my party, I'm going to do what's right. Some of those folks are too, and go find those folks.
Well, we'll stop there for a moment, and then Karen Carson and John North will lead us off in our second block of Inside Tennessee on this Sunday morning. We appreciate you watching. Back with more from the Congressman-elect.